welcome back to Trash Told You. Yes, it's been, oh boy, it's been a few days. I think it's almost been a week, really, because this is going to air on the Tuesday for the podcast. This last one was I think it was the Wednesday or maybe the Tuesday night. Monday, too. I think it might have been a whole week. Yeah, I've been very busy, very good thing. Good type of busy. Did some camping, got to see some friends and family that from out of town. It was just one of those weeks where everything was happening at the same time, and that's why I couldn't do one. And then now, as I was talking about before, now I'm home with the little ladies and everything like that. I watch them. So before it was easy, okay, sneak away, do an hour, Emily watch the girls, come back, edit, do everything like that, Now, during the day, not so much. And I thought about, I could record segments throughout the day, but you never know when you got 3 kids running around and stuff like that. So that may happen, but I think for people wondering, and now for the live people, I doubt, it's 6 a.m. my time, and people might think that's early. It's not really that early for me now. So at one point it was, but usually I'm waking up at 4:35 to usually go to the gym. I'm just swapping them. Usually I do this in the podcast and day, gonna do the gym later on in the night. So I was trying to figure out, at one point I was gonna do that, I was gonna do later night cast, but the other reason I did this is because I wanted to hold. So this week there's going to be an episode Tuesday to Friday. That's what's going to be happening. You still got a GeekVerse episode happening Thursday, so check out that. You still got me and Dylan are going to be covering opening night live for Gamescom. Still got a bunch of GeekVerse stuff. She-Hulk, that's all normal one up. For the next 2 weeks, I think this is what's going to happen. That's why I wait to hold some of these topics so I can have a bigger cast today. I go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Next week will either be Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday to Friday. We'll figure it out and see. But yeah, so all the news will be a bit more. A little delayed, depending. Like right now, I just got 20 minutes ago the Lord of the Rings trailer, which we're going to talk about, which is nice. The trailers and usually like announcements for like tickets or things like that happen at 9, but then the breaking midday news, unless there's something massive. If there's something massive, I might jump on kind of right away. But for patrons and everything like that, I'm tripping on my words. You can tell I haven't podcasted in almost a week, For patrons, I will start to send in the show notes kind of the night before. I'll try and send it somewhat earlier because I know a lot of our fans are Eastern. Don't know how that happened. Really don't know how that happened. How we end up getting more Eastern fans than Pacific. We welcome you all and everything like that. But that's why I got to go, okay, I can't really send it at 8 our time because it's 11. We're getting the midnight their time. So today I didn't do that. I didn't send in for questions because I was just figuring out the return to form. And yeah, so thank you very much to everyone that listens. Like I said, I'll still be doing this for the next 2 weeks. And then we'll see what happens next. And to deal with that, I'm not sure when it's going to be dropping, if it's going to be dropping today or this week and everything like that. But soon. We did this last year and we really liked it, so we want to hear back again from everyone, not just patrons, everyone, where we will be dropping a survey. I think it's about 10 to 12 questions somewhere in there about everything. Obviously, there's going to be questions about Travis Told You So. There's going to be Travis Told You. See, I'm doing collated. There's going to be questions about side quests. There's going to be questions about some of the new content we've done because we kind of got a gauge of last year overall, okay, what you liked and didn't like, and we've kind of not pivoted, but did, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now, with this one, same thing, 2023, we got lots of plans coming up, and we have a direction, and some things are set in stone, but there's other things that aren't, or there's other things where it's like, okay, we could change it this way or change it that way, depending on what you all think. So we try to listen to the fans. We try to, if people aren't liking the content, we try to switch it up or drop it. If you are, we try to do more of it. Like, that's how we end up with so many drafts this year, right? Because so many people like the drafts are really fun. I like the drafts, and I think we might do more of those in a very smaller sense. But I think I figured out a way. So we will see. And yeah, lots of stuff happening. GeekVerse, check out. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit today, but check out Taylor and Kirklin's House of Dragon review. I did like it. I will be on some of those reviews. I don't know the next 2 weeks because I got Logan's birthday coming up on Sunday, and then after that I am camping again one more time. So I think eventually I will be on there. I know I'd say at least twice. Once I got to cover for Taylor and probably once with the finale. But no, I'll talk about more that I will be happily on there somehow. Yeah, everything is down below. Links, video, audio, all that good jazz. Best way to support us is head over Patreon because there will be on the survey some specific questions for patrons. So if you want to find out all about that, let us know. Well, you can join and let us know and stuff like that. But it's going to be asking about tiers and content and stuff like that. But a big thank you to everyone that's been listening and watching for however long. We really appreciate it. And as always, whether you are supporting the sponsors like Manscaped, 20% off. GVPOD, go do that. Free worldwide shipping. Or Patreon, and even just listening, but those and patrons, those are the biggest way to get more content. Like, the more you support us and those feeds, the more we can actually pump out, like this show, like side quests, like retrospectives. And next year, as we said before, we're fan funded. We're gonna be using your support a lot because we have lots of plans to keep going and making some big stuff. So let's get into it. I guess I should bring up the show notes, right? But Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So we just got the final trailer. There's been lots of stuff happening with this. And obviously, go check out our retrospective because we just released Fellowship, it was, right? Yeah, Fellowship. I'm just making notes on my story notes. We just released a Fellowship one that was 4 hours long. Tons of fun. 2 Towers will be dropping this week, and I think it's another 4-hour one. So we go deep. We haven't recorded Return the King yet, but I think that's going to be the longest one. I think Return the King is going to be pretty massive. There's lots to talk about, but we're in full Lord of the Rings mode here. It's so funny. I played Lord of the Rings. I have Monopoly with a bunch of friends, and that was tons of fun. We did that. And I'm in such a mode that I've actually thought about watching The Hobbits again. And you can listen to the retros where like I had no interest in ever watching them again. I still don't know if I will because it's a lot of time, but I am off, and those are some safe things to watch for kids and everything like that. So that's where I am. But yeah, they've had a couple. They're doing the final hurrah, right? They're going through the final promotion, get everyone hyped, and I think it's working. Oh, I am rusty. Got to time my drinks better, but I think it is working. I see generally everybody pretty excited for Rings of Power, and then the big thing they announced was I think it's Cinemark in the States, but for us it's just Landmark and things like that where. They're going to be screening the first 2 episodes August 31st. I was going to say, go, if you're interested, go look at your local theater, but pretty sure they sold out pretty quick. I'm hoping that means more in demand because for us, of course, nothing. It's in Vancouver. Fucking Dylan gets it again. You know, he got the Batman. He got this. This does not hurt me as much as the Batman because I would. This is more the fact that I'd love to see on the big screen. But even the Batman is like I could think about driving day before. This is not so much. It's like okay, no, it's just only a day before, but still very cool on the big screen. I hope more things do this. I know Game of Thrones was doing that near the end. Ooh, I hope more shows do that. Have this even Disney Plus. Like I know Obi-Wan did that. I wish obviously Kelowna got this, but I wish it would be grand to scale, but I guess at the same point it depends on how well they do financially, and that we don't really have it because I don't know if they release those numbers of how well those like little fan screenings do and everything like that. But today we got the final trailer because boy, what are we? It's the 23rd when I record this, so that's crazy. We're less than we're just over a week away. We're 9 days. I almost said 18. Can't count right now. But yeah, this trailer, I think it was good. I don't think the trailer I think the last one was the bigger one because that really hinted at evil stuff, that hinted at Sauron, and Sauron was the smoking gun, right? That's the thing where it's like they are talking about something that happens in the future that is a big moment, something that even people like Kirklin said, I don't know if they're going to cover in the show, and even then with how they spoke about it, we don't know how they're going to cover it, right? We don't know if it's different timelines. We don't know if it's just a mention. We don't know what it is. Like, you know, House of Dragons did that this weekend where they just mentioned something from the future. Now, are they going to dive into it or is it just a mention? I don't know. I hope it's just a mention. But anyways, could you be any earlier? What do you mean, fanboy Clay? It's 9 a.m. where you are, I'm pretty sure, right? It's 9 a.m. But, you know, it's the best with life. You know, it's the best way. Can't do it midday. Can't do it later. So, want to do it now. I could do it later, but this works a little bit better. And I can always pivot in the future. But number 2, I think that was the bigger, like, girthier one of showing some cards. This one had a lot of scenes that were either extended. I remember when we did the, what was it? The very first trailer reaction, it was that guy giving the little girl the apple and everything like that. We're like, who's that? Is that, you know, some sort of trickster, stuff like that? I still don't know who it is. I'm not Kirklin, and I guess the reason I'm safe to do this here, I'm not doing a full breakdown because I don't know if Kirklin will watch this last one because now that we're kind of so close. But at the same point, I don't think there's anything there. Of course, there's some iconography you see. There's some characters you see. To me, this was one showing scenes that are extended, but also just showing scenes that are kind of we've already seen before, but in different teasers, like all put together. Like we've gotten the guy in the water, we've gotten the whole Galadriel climbing the mountain and stuff like that. It's just extended. Like there's one scene where she's going, and there's some guy that falls. That's like a line of elves, I think, or warriors, whoever it may be. They fall, and they, oh, we gotta stop these injuries. Like, no, we can't. Like, showing she's a little cold. Whether that is just she's strategic or she is colder and she's gonna warm up a little bit in the the future of the series, who knows? But they show the E-Minum looking guy who's not Sauron. They made it look like it was Sauron. We've learned it's not Sauron, but I still like to bug Kirklin that it is. I guess a lot more like action shots too at the end, like people doing cool shit with horses, taking out orcs, stuff like that. So I think this is a good trailer, but I don't think it's like the first teaser was okay. We just want to see it. We just want to see the world. We want to see how the effects are looking. We want to see some of our main characters. Okay. And that was, I think, the Super Bowl one, right? And then the second teaser was the impending doom. This is Sauron. These are evil. These are things that are going to be happening. Yet, Okay. Even if Sauron's not the main bad guy, it showed a lot of evil and a lot of, like, we're going to have to work together, right? This was kind of a collage of all those. I don't think it didn't show off anymore. I thought they were going to end with, I think what they should have done, which is fine, because at the end of the day, we're, like I said, 9 days away. People are gonna watch this regardless. I don't actually know why they need this final trailer, because I'd say what they should have done for that second trailer is like hold the Bell Rock back and do it for this, because I feel like you need some big oomph for the GA or something like that. But at the same time, I think I'm wrong there, because you don't really need the big oomph. It's at this point, it's sold. At this point, you've decided if you're going to watch or not. At this point, I imagine people like ourselves are rewatching Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, stuff like that, rereading, getting excited. I think it's the only thing that will change now from this point to next Friday is once people see the first 2 episodes, and if they don't like them, they'll check out. That's the only thing I think that's changing for now. I think if you are excited by Lord of the Rings and this trailer comes out, it's a good trailer. It shows off some good stuff. The effects wise, it's still looking all great. I know I think learned some other things through the teasers. That seems like they're teasing Galadriel's having some romance with this man character with the darker hair. Sure, that's all right. She lives long, so I'm sure she can have multiple romances. The other thing is that there was one teaser they released that everyone calls it like the MCU teaser, where she's like, I'm Galadriel, and she lists off all the people she's related or her achievements, and then he's just like, I am Tim, and that's it. And it was very kind of quippy and back and forth and stuff like that, and people weren't liking that, and which would be interesting, because I remember that happened with Moon Knight, where it was not very shown to be comedic, and that was very comedic, and a lot of people are like, I don't know how much I like this. I don't think this show will be like that, but imagine if it is always like a lot of quips and a lot of stuff like that. Again, everything they've shown from the teasers and trailers, I don't think it will be like that. That teaser though, that one off with Galadriel did have that vibe, but that could have just been any small jokes in 10 episodes put into one little teaser, right? So again, I think you're on board. I don't think this trailer is bad. I don't think it's like, oh my god, this is fantastic. I think it's just showing more stuff. It's like Carl Urban and Thor Ragnarok. Look at my stuff. Like, there's nothing more that's gonna sell you. If you're not watching Rings of Power, you're not. I don't think this is the one to get you there. I think what this is, it's a reminder. It is obviously there's diehards like us that were looking at the theater tickets, trying to buy them. This is for your mom, your dad, the GA, people that forgot it's coming. And this comes out, and they'll see it on their Amazon page. They'll see it on their Prime page. They'll see it on I guess just ads, marketing ads and stuff like that. YouTube, Twitter, it'll trend for a little bit. And I don't think it's like I think they put it out smartly too, because we'll talk about House of Dragons. That was the talk of the town for Sunday and Monday. And I feel like Tuesday it's going to slow down a little bit. It's good to drop it here and not during the House of Dragons, like the weekend or the next Monday, because it's just, they're not competing in a sense, but they are different shows, and I think you do want to separate yourself. I guarantee you there's some GA audience that doesn't even know the difference. Like, oh, I thought it was the same show. But you want to, it's interesting because like we kind of have, I guess we kind of have it, but I guess it's like if Marvel and DC had two big shows at the very same time. It's kind of like if they're making a Doctor Fate movie and a Doctor Strange movie at the same time and it was coming out relatively close, you'd have to really choose how you market it, and I think that has something to do with it. But I think this is just the classic reminder trailer. Hey, this is coming. It's soon. It's on Amazon Prime. Theater for some people. Enjoy. Here you go. So I thought it was a good trailer. Got some Hobbit action in there. Got some joy. Like, they showed off all the people. They showed off kind of, I think, what's going to be your main players. I'm excited to see with these episodes if it's going to be like Game of Thrones, where it is, in a sense, where it, the first episode introduces a lot of people, right? And then it continues to just each episode it feels like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or if it's going to be something like God, like Euphoria in a way. I know it's not HBO, but Euphoria in a way where it's like, hey, this episode focuses, at least season 1, like this episode focuses a lot on this character. So we'll see. I think it's going to be more the Game of Thrones route where you meet a lot of characters and you get like little snippets of each. So we'll see. It's coming out in a week. We'll be reviewing that. We got Return of the King. So I think it's going to be a very fun time. So we're going to take our first ad break and then we'll be right back. And we're back. And I'm going to show you the starting soon in a second because I think my dog is tangled in a cord and I got to get her leg. And I'm back. The audio people will never know. I gotta get a be right back. No, I could hear like trying to do like kicking around stuff like that. But yes, we are back. So talking of House of Dragons, that came out this Sunday, and so I watched it. I quite enjoyed it. Not so. I guess I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it because even the last season, which everyone says is just like this dumpster fire, right? Of like, oh, it's so awful, and da 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 da. There's part of it that's true. I was never in same with George R. R. Martin. Like, it's interesting route to go, right? Because he was talking about all these seasons. I recommend they do 10 to 12 to 13, which I completely agree with. But then at the same time, he didn't finish the book, so they're only doing what they thought was best. But at the same time, maybe you should have listened to the creator. Like, I see an argument for both ways as far as that last season, right? And you can go back, me and Taylor review the last season and everything like that. But it's difficult. I still lean more towards him because yes, he should have had those books finished so they had a better scope to go off of. But still, this is the guy that everything's saying, hey, you need more time. But I guess without the books, they're like, oh, we had enough time to cover all these things. And again, I really feel like just the back half, particularly the last 3 or 2 episodes, are what hurt Game of Thrones, right? And it's one of these things where there's lots of decisions other than maybe like Bran being king, but most of the decisions is like, okay, even ones I don't agree with, I think I could have been sold with some more time, some more seasoning, but it was just rushed. And it's so funny that the narrative of like how people turned on Game of Thrones, right? But did they really? And that's the question with this one where, so I was somebody, the same thing as I'll get to kind of my thoughts and what the main topic is here because it just crushed, right? I compare what happened to myself and probably many others, which I did see on my timeline as far as after Endgame. Tons of people went, okay, once Endgames happens, Endgames, that's what they'll call the next one. Once Endgame happens, I'm done with the MCU. I'm done with Marvel. Maybe I'll come back, watch a few things, but I'm done. And Endgame roll around, or Far From Home, and then all these other ones, it seems like we get hit after hit, varying degrees, but still, $1 billion movie there, almost $1 billion Doctor Strange. Clearly not done with it, right? I was the same way where after Game of Thrones, I was done. I'd seen the teaser. I remember Taylor asking, oh, are we going to review that? I said, that can be a solo thing. Everything like that. Kirklin jumped on, so I'm glad for that. But I was like, I'll at least always check out the first episode because the quality of the last few seasons was to be desired, but it was still better than a lot of TV. It was just because it were very similar to some of those Dexter later seasons where the first few seasons were such a high bar in that like S tier. Even if you're like an A tier season, like, oh, it's off. It's like if you get shows or episodes that are not the best of all time, like Game of Thrones was putting out, that's a high bar to keep up, right? And that's kind of what was going on there. So I think the last season has merit. One day I'm excited to rewatch them all again, but it was a tough thing. I've left a lot of sour tastes in people's mouths, right? And that's where, same with Marvel, same with Game of Thrones, where, okay, so I watched this. I thought there would be a barometer being good. You guys know how I feel about it being like a prequel. I'm not a big prequel person. Also, there's like now already there's like two things where they're like alluding to something. It's like we know exactly like for a while I know it's always Taylor tells me it's just about the journey, not the destination. But still, for me, it's like if I know exactly, not exactly, but if I know enough about the journey, it's not that exciting for me. And it began in a way where it was very smart. It's like what 183, 172, something like that, years before Daenerys Targaryen. Great. That establishes how far it is, and establishes that it is connected to our main story somewhat, right? But even then, it's like, okay, I know nothing about these characters. But then near the end of the episode, they're talking about stuff where it's like, oh, this prophecy. It's like, okay, well, I know how this prophecy goes. So I hope that the main crux of the show is not about these prophecies, not about this winter and stuff like that. Because like we know where this is going. I hope it's about these characters. Because I think they introduce, and I'm not going to do a full review. Go check out Kirklin and Taylor's. I think they introduced a lot of interesting characters, which is the best thing in Game of Thrones is like the boys, stuff like that. Interesting characters that are all operating like gray. There's a time where in this show where I met all these characters and went, like I was liking them, but it's like, oh, okay, they're an asshole there, evil there. And there's one person, same thing that I'm liking, like, oh, this must be the good character throughout. And then they do something at the end of the episode, you're like, ugh. Yeah, it's classic Game of Thrones. No one's all good and no one's all bad. Much like life, but these are to like the heavy degree. And there's some big stuff and there's some really awful stuff. Everyone knows what I'm referring to. There's one scene in particular near the back in the episode, just like very tough to watch, but still very realistic. Like those are things that happened back then, right? So I think what they did was they nailed that tone of Game of Thrones, and they introduced a lot of good characters and a lot of potential stories. And for me, and this is all again too why I think it's still successful and going to be successful, that stuff of some prophecies and alluding to the other series, I don't need that, but it's good for the GA because they go, it's like when we read comic books or books, you go, oh, I know what they're talking about. Like with the Gauntlet, the whole time, MCU or Marvel fans, we know, it's gonna be the stones and Thanos. Maybe he's gonna snap, stuff like that. They feel a little bit in on the joke in a good way, right? Like in on the magic trick. Where it's like, oh, I know what they're talking about here. So I think that actually helps, and that's what I was gonna say. Where the people that are like the end games, that's after MCU, I'm done. The people like the Game of Thrones, after that, even myself, I'm done. And I wasn't, right? Complete, not a hypocrite, because I'll take it as. I guess I am maybe hypocritical because when I first saw, like, no interest, but I'll take it as the premiere and the writing was that good that they brought me back in, like Pacino, Godfather 3. Thought I was out and they pulled me back in. That was them just doing a damn good job. And this one, it sounds like George R. R. Martin's more involved with and stuff like that. So, and because he said the last few seasons he didn't feel that exact same way. So clearly he's not happy with how it went. I've always said it's gonna be interesting of when he puts up that last book, and if it's similar, it's like, well, dude, like, why are you unhappy? The book's pretty similar, but at the same time, he has some time to pivot. I don't think you pivot everything, but enough that he could say, oh, well, this is where it should have been. Or I wonder if there is some big stuff where he changes his mind on. But then you look at the numbers, right? The numbers for the show, Samba had put out, it was like 2.6, I think it was, for like streaming numbers. And then HBO put out, it was like 10.1 or something like that million. Here's my point about myself. And even let's say let's say I watch this first episode, or I choose not to watch this first episode. And the people, because I legitimately believe there are people that after the MCU or after Endgame did start with the MCU or start watching for a little, right? That's where it comes down to it, all of it. But like, Twitter is not real life, or the social media narrative is not real life. Now, it depends with situations. Political, that's a whole different thing. But with these shows, you look at, I feel like Game of Thrones, after that finale, it was tough. I feel like that show just got dragged through the coals. Some deservedly, I do think, but it just got dragged through it, right? But it shows, at the end of the day, enough people loved that show, or the general audience didn't care, or there's still tons of people, which I guarantee you there is, because I feel like I don't think it's 50-50. I feel like it's more like a 65-35. Most people I hear is about, oh, it's a bad season. I don't think it's a bad season. I think it just like drops the ball in the ending. But it shows that us, some of the mainstream, or the film Twitter, stuff like that, TV Twitter, of doing I'm done with this, or I don't need any more MCU. as always, we don't make up the bulk of the audience because Samba, I said was the biggest cable premiere, I guess, for streaming for this year, and then HBO was the biggest premiere of all time. Which I saw some people, because Game of Thrones was rocking like 19 million for the finale, be like, oh, that's a little bit lower than I expected. But it's like, no, biggest premiere in HBO. That's where people just like, we've talked about this before, where billions not big enough or these amounts are not big enough. Like, if you think 10 million, which is the biggest premiere in HBO history, is not enough, I don't know what to tell you. Sure, could it be higher? Yeah, but to me that's very impressive because 10 million, that's 9 million away from the finale, and the finale had like, that was the finale. That was the final episode. It wasn't the final of the season. It was the final episode of Game of Thrones with all these storylines building up, coming to conclusion. I'm not saying that this can get to that. That's a lot harder because it is a prequel, and I think eventually, it all depends on the follow-up now, right? Because they got that 10 million and it's like, okay, a lot of people check out. Now, I think the quality, like I said, of the episode and it feeling a lot like classic Game of Thrones, it's going to make people stick around. I'm not saying it's going to be 10 million every week, but I think keeping that most of those people around, like myself who are worried about it, is going to happen. It's just that, to me, that shows that this, one, HBO, Warner Brothers, WBD, whatever the fuck they're called nowadays, is smart to lean into this, because I was somebody that questioned the same way, probably like when I saw Endgame and then more Marvel stuff, I'm like, oh, it's just all gonna be hits, so people are gonna love it. I didn't question it at all. Where there were people on the other side like, oh, what's gonna happen here? I was on the other side of Game of Thrones, like, after that finale, are people gonna care? Because I didn't care, but that's where it shows, like, just because myself and some other people didn't, really care for the ending of the show, and was kind of, I'm sick and tired of Game of Thrones now. It doesn't matter. There's enough people that weren't. So I do think the hype is back. It's just up to them to keep it, right? So it's up to them to keep the quality of those episodes. And two, like I said, I think the best thing for them to do, but I guess I'd be wrong here, I was going to say, is still tell their own story and not tie it too much to the original series. But like I said, tying the original series gives other people that kind of a latch to, I know what we're going to, right? So that's what it comes down to. They've great, interesting characters, and all it comes down to is the quality there, and even if it's not, Game of Thrones might be a big enough brand where if the finale and that quality to me maybe should have drove a bit more people away. Doesn't matter because it's a big brand and they're here for it. Can it sustain that? Only time will tell. I think it's gonna. I think here, if the quality of the show is episode 1 or higher, I think it will sustain like always 8 to 12 million, because I think it will start to grow, because we're just meeting these characters now. There's gonna be tons of people that watch it later on, and another sign for it being like a massive just IP and why they're smart to go sticking with it. For Samba, 2.6 in a day. We talk about Obi-Wan, that was like 2.2 in, what was it, 4 or 3 days. Loki was 2.5 in 5 days or something like that. Like, the biggest Disney Plus premieres, those are from 4 to 7 days, those stats, right? That did like a 2, and that's a 2.6 in 1 day, or it was like 6 hours. And that's also Samba, who does not track everything, and is also, people can say no. They say, no, I don't want to be tracked. So that number's higher. So it's impressive. And Game of Thrones, it's here to stay. I think if this premiere was wibbly wobbly, it didn't capture the magic, then I'd say, okay, people tuned in for the curiosity. But now, I think it did really well as far as a show. I think it's going to keep people around. And I think now, too, once we get to it, if it does happen, that Jon Snow show is going to be massive. Because I already thought that one, like, okay, out of all of them, that has a chance of, like, not being as big as Game of Thrones, but at least being a hit, where this prequel, maybe people check it out, but then tune out eventually. I think the prequel is going to do well. The Jon Snow one, because that is a sequel with a very popular, if not the most popular character of the show. Yeah, they're doing good. So that's where it's like, it's smart to, and not that, if you were to ask me business wise, should we not do Game of Thrones one, I would have never said no. Like, I don't think I ever said that. It was just a personal thing of, okay, it's always going to be successful. It's just a question of how successful. Is it top dog of the chain again? And it could be. Like, looking at these numbers, we could have a next 5 to 8 years of House Dragon being the most popular show again. So kudos to them. I'm excited to see what happens in a little bit. So every weekend, check out our review It'll be Taylor and Kirkland mostly for the next few weeks, but then I'll eventually jump on there and I'll have lots to say and everything like that. And plus, and Travis told you I'll be speaking little stuff. All I'll say too is like whether it's Rice or Reese Ifans and Matt Smith, just born to be in this universe. And Matt Smith, I think honestly was what pushed me over because I just want to see Matt Smith in something good as not a Doctor Who fan. So he was the last like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot, and he was fantastic. Loving that character so far. Like what I love about that character, he's a complete dirty, piece of shit. But then there's times where he's overly caring and not like fake, like overly caring for a couple characters, or has like a very, strong emotional side. And you go, where did this come from? So yeah, really liking everything they're doing with him. So let's. So this is a combination of something that just happened last night and then something that I missed last week, which was a rumor, which is an interesting rumor nonetheless. Let's start with. I guess I was gonna say the bad news, good news. Let's start with the bad news first, and it's not as bad. The death has greatly been exaggerated, right? So we get this report last night. I guess I should take a drink. I didn't even take a drink in between my topics. My God. So we get a report last night with a bunch of animated HBO Max stuff that's not moving forward to HBO Max, whether it's stuff that was planned or whether it's stuff that's already in pre-production. Like the little Ellen thing that came up again with the creators saying, "Oh, we worked on 20 episodes, not gonna see anything." Again, that's all suck. We heard also last night too that again these guys, the directors of Batgirl, did interviews saying they were gonna try and just go and record even some of the footage with their phone, and when they went back after this cancellation was happening, it was all off the server. So man, they've learned from the Snyder Cut, hey, of where Zach got to get some reels and keep everything. No, this regime doesn't want anything like that happening. So I think it's even less likely. Not that we were probably going to see it because of the tax write-off, but we're probably never going to see it. And again, I don't know what this management would have done with the Snyderverse or Zack Snyder's Justice League, but everyone that is a massive fan of that movie, just be fucking thankful that you got that movie, because you could see how easy it could just be gone. And obviously you saw some of it, but at least with the 2017 one, you got to see a little bit of this. This is like see nothing and no redemption, probably. Very likely. Like I'd say it's like 99.99% that we'll never see this. So, if it gets tax write-off, I guess 100%, because who's going to leak it though? Because I thought, oh, the director is somebody, but it's like if they don't have any footage, that sucks. They don't have anything. But they're being good enough sports about it, but also all this stuff happening, right? And there's a bunch of specials, HBO animated stuff that they're taking off. Again, a mix of they're in the middle working on it, or it just was planned and stuff like that. And then another thing that was announced was the Batman the Caped Crusader is not going to be on HBO Max. Now, it got muddled because for like an hour, everyone thought it was canceled, right? And then it was Boris Kit came and said, no, it's not canceled. It's just not going forward to HBO Max. It's deep in production, and it should show up somewhere. And same thing as, I don't know who, it was some writer on the show. I don't know. It's not a showrunner, but somebody tweeted out that they're still working hard on it. Early morning cast. They're still working hard on it, but they're pretty much just like hitchhiker with their thumb out looking for a ride. This just shows to me that Zaslav, he's the type of guy that, and I think we've may all been guilty of this at some point in our lives, but he's the type of guy that looks upon animation lesser than live action. And I mean to an nth degree. Like there's some people, like I'll use Brent for example. He always will talk about how he prefers, the live action MCU canon stuff to the animation stuff. If it's canon MCU, he'd rather be live action. That's his preference. But I've also heard him talk about how great Spider-Verse is. I've heard him talk about how great these other shows are. He's not somebody that looks down upon animation. He just has a preference, right? That'd be fine as Azal has preference. And I'm just assuming here, right? Just assuming. But it feels like he just doesn't care about animation. It looks at lesser than. To me, he's the guy that like, oh, animation can just be for small kids that have, just pick boogers and, are doing nothing like it. Or just for the people with developing minds. I think that's a huge missed opportunity. Now, of course, we just had Super Pets come out, and that didn't do the greatest. It's already on digital, I think, today, and then Nope's coming out Friday. Stuff just comes out so quick. But I don't get it, but I get from a business standpoint why you might feel that way. I'm very surprised with this one, because if HBO Max continues or WBD, whatever it may be, I imagine that they're going to keep Batman the Animated Series on there. And even if it's not pulling in the massive numbers like everything else, I imagine numbers-wise it pulls in a lot more than other animated stuff of older fare. And it's just interesting where I really don't get it. I know some people have said like, oh, I could see now DC in the future selling, or Warner Brothers selling DC off as a property. I'm not gonna go that far. I think this is just a pure animation thing. I'm not saying it's like never gonna happen, because fuck, crazy things have happened. And man, Warner Brothers fucking I'm never gonna call them Discovery. It's just something used to Warner Brothers. Their stock market is just fucking crashing. It's like they went from, I can't remember the article that Clay shared with me, and then I saw another one, just like the charts. Like, man, it's not going good. It was like, oh, trying to recover the $3 billion. Now it's like they've lost $2 billion. It's like, it's in the midst of them budget cutting and getting rid of shows, and that's why I guess they're doing these tax write-offs. But obviously, there's always going to be a transit. Like, when people were saying, oh, at that earnings call when the stock crashed the next few days, look at that, fuck them. It's like, I'm sure a little bit of the decisions had to do with that, but most time when these transitions of power happen, that goes down. That's where it was a rare case when I talk about wrestling. When Vince left, the stock went up. I was like, what the fuck? Because most people, the stock drops because they're unsure about what's going to happen, right? When they make big decisions, big changes, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, no, this is fun. Like, the stock was going to drop. Maybe it's dropped a little bit more, but it will recover. It hasn't recovered, and it keeps going down. So it's this interesting thing of, is this just still more carryover of people unsure about the era, or is it people just unsure now about Zaslav and his vision? And it would not put me or surprise me. I'm not a stock market guy, so I don't know the whisperings and rumblings, all that stuff, like what happens. But the era, it's not felt good, and it's not feel like it's going smoothly. It just feels like it's very bumpy. And this is another thing where I get it if you don't like animation, but on paper, and again, does HBO, the new streaming app, gonna have no animation? I would think not. So why not go through its content? It's like the Batgirl thing. Even just market as, hey, this is a multiverse. What if Elseworlds Tale they are going this direction. We're going a different direction. But here, see it. Maybe get some subs, maybe get some watches. Same thing with this, and I guess they just feel that they could sell it and make more money, maybe. But to me, it's just weird of like, you're not, that whole term of protecting your brand. This doesn't feel like protecting your brand. This feels like the exact opposite of like just throwing something aside, because you have this show, which, looks great, but that's subjective, right? But just the two things on its front, where I saw about the Batman animated series, it's a continuation, a spiritual successor to that show. You can market the shit out of that, of this is, linked to that, has some DNA with that. Like I said, I'm sure that one gets watched a lot more than other ones. And then you also have names like Bruce Timm, which GA doesn't know, but J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves. J.J. Abrams, still big name, and Matt Reeves, the person who just directed your successful The Batman movie, right? And I'm, again, not trying to look into this and be like, oh, you got to worry, because it is just an animated show. But at the same time, I'm still just happy we got The Batman, because I don't think The Batman 2. Now, last week when it was like, oh, it's, not greenlit, I still thought, oh, well, it's just not greenlit because it's still kind of in the very pre-production stage, right? They're still working on everything. But I've always said that I think their plan is to make The Batman 2. My thing is, like, does it happen with Reeves? That's the tough thing. I don't really know if it happens with Reeves, because just even little stuff like this, you would think that if you have a project that's being produced by the guy who directed The Batman, who's it was a successful movie, and you've praised it, you'd want to keep that one around because great synergy and great promotion. No, you're going to just let it go to some other network. Very odd, but I guess I just don't. It's just, like I said, it just even feels like if Feige was to take one of the what if shows, like the Spider-Man one, like, oh, we're just going to put it, it's like even these shows like X-Men that they're bringing back and they don't maybe have much to do with Marvel Studios, like the MCU, universe, they're still under the banner. So I don't know, more just kind of bad signs. I'm happy that it seems like the cancellation thing did not happen. It's just in flux as far as where's it going to be. I hope we see the show. I don't know what that means for season 2. I don't think that's likely, so I'm just going to enjoy what we can. But yeah, it just is, obviously it's Batman stuff, but I just feel like all the stuff that's happening for myself personally just gets less and less excited. Batgirl's gone. This is like shelf for HBO Max, so they don't really, I guess, believe in it. But to me, it's like, if you don't believe in the show, I won't say what's the point, but it just feels like such a lack of cohesion right now. And again, it is someone taking over other people's stuff, but we'll see. And then the other thing, I was going to say bad news, good news. Good news for some people, I don't know, I guess we'll even have to see that. So Daniel RPK, who's like, I'd say a C+ scooper, excuse me. He had put out on his Patreon. Now with his Patreon, A lot of times he'll tweet things out, put things out, maybe give them to other sites. With his Patreon, those are pure like rumor stuff, right? And that's purely like what he's hearing. Sometimes they happen to be true, sometimes they don't. And what he had put out is that he had heard that Warner Brothers is already working on a Lady Gaga Harley Quinn spinoff. Obviously, it's tough for me to be like, oh, how do I feel like that? Because, you know, I like Joker 2, or I hope I like Joker 2. I like Joker. I want Joker 2, so you should be 100% down for this, Travis. I'm down for it in concept of sure, like it's not going to hurt Joker 1, and if it works, it's interesting. To me, it's kind of the classic counting your chickens before they hatch, because I do think that Joker 2 will be a hit, right? I don't know if it'll be like Joker 1. I don't think it will be. If you were to ask me, will it be $1 billion movie? No. I think I've always said that it will make its budget back and be profitable. To see how much, to see what if Joker 1, like people does say, was kind of like a flash in the pan. This comes out, makes money, but not too much. Again, they don't have to move forward with it. But at the same time, as a company, if they're planning this, there's potentially somebody at their house, in a room, at their office, writing a script for this, writing a pitch for this. They're paying people. You have to pay people to do that. So I would take the full, if this is true, wait and see approach. I think Gaga's going to kill it. So I think she's going to kill it, and it's like, okay, sure, do more. I don't know if that would be before Joker, because it seems like before, I don't know what the plot is. It felt like, okay, maybe they might do Mad Love, and she's a therapist that falls in love, and they tell that story. From that art, it seemed like she had like a very Harley Quinn looking costume already, so it's like maybe she will already be Harley Quinn, but at the same time, one of the first things we saw was the Joker outfit, and then Joker was, Arthur Fleck took a while to become that Joker. So maybe that's near the end. Would this be pre-Arthur, or if it is after, does Arthur die in this movie and then she can carry it on? I'm not sure. I think there's possibilities. I think Lady Gaga headlining that is like a powerhouse. So I can see why on paper I would just see, let's let Joker 2 happen and go from there, And I get that they got Gaga, it's a big star. I think they're probably pretty happy with the Joker 2 script, with the budget and the amount they're moving forward and everything like that. I would just kind of wait on it just to see. And of course, if it does happen, that's always the conversation. If it does, what does it say about Margot Robbie? I don't know. Because we still don't know exactly what Zaslav feels about this whole connected universe, not connected universe, if he's fine with that. I think Margot, it's tough because this whole, I know James Gunn's like, Peacemaker's safe. I believe that Peacemaker's safe. And he's like, I got all these other projects. I hope they happen. If one of those projects is not a Harley Quinn, James Gunn joint, I do think less and less Margot might star in it. Less, because I don't think if it's not like Batman, in my opinion. I think if Gaga legitimately gets a solo Harley Quinn movie, I would see Harley Quinn played by Margot Robbie in a team up or a TV show. I think the Margot Robbie movie era might be over. And I think Birds of Prey, he might look at that and go, oh, wasn't that successful, so I don't want to do that again. So in concept, because I already like the concept of Harley Quinn played by Lady Gaga. Sure. Obviously plot wise, we don't know what it could be about. If she's Harley Quinn right when she meets Joker, it could be literally, oh, how she became Harley Quinn. I don't want that. I want this movie to be a Mad Love equivalent. So could it be after, if Arthur Fleck's still locked up, or if he's dead? Sure. I think that is more, we're getting the cash and stuff, but at the same point, all movies are cashing, and there's solo Harley Quinn comics I read, right? So I would be open to. I know everyone right away jumps to, oh, Ivy and Harley. No, I think that still has a better chance with Robbie if there's any film, and I just don't think we're gonna get the plant lady unless she's just like a plant terrorist, right? So we'll see. These are just minor rumors. So I'm going to take our next ad break, and we'll be back with some quick hits. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Just a few things, some mix of rumors, little news and stuff like that. Before House of Dragon, they showed the Last of Us footage. So this is, if you were talking about shows that are not, fuck it, even Disney, DC, Marvel, whatever, just shows in general, you talk about something that is anticipated for me, even movies probably. Overall, this is like probably top 5 for shows. I think this is top 1 for me. I think great casting all around. HBO's a perfect home for it. And I know I said casting, but Pedro is the fucking guy. I think it's the Chernobyl people. Have watched Chernobyl. People say a lot of great things about it. So all aces, right? And we get this footage. It's about 13 seconds. We get this footage, and it's a lot of looking like the game, identical to the game. I think that's great. I'm very anticipated for the show. I think people lost their shit over this footage way too much. It's great that he is saying stuff, Pedro's saying stuff exactly like the game, that has the exact same background. That's awesome. Doesn't mean the show is going to be great, but I get the idea as far as, hey, if they follow the story pretty much exactly, it's going to be great. And look, they look like they're be doing it. So I get why people are doing that, like why people are excited. I just thought like, okay, great. We're seeing actual footage is getting closer and closer and closer. I didn't take this as, oh my fucking God. Like people, like there's been so many headlines, like they're doing the game perfectly. Just because it's the same way as a comic movie. Just because if the panels look the exact same doesn't mean the story, the acting, the dialogue, the writing is going to be there. Now, we all think it's going to be there. I do think it's going to be there. I'm just saying that people got way, way too hyped for just this little 13-second clip. I'm excited. I'm excited because, like I said, this means we're getting closer and closer to it. We should be getting a date relatively, I imagine. I'm not going to say soon, but I think they said early 2023, and man, I cannot wait because I think Kirklin, I don't know about Tip, but I think Kirklin's joining me because he's didn't play the games, but what I saw does look good. I just thought people got way too hyped for this because it's literally like if you were to make a fan film show, oh, look, they've recreated it. Let's get the full vibe. Let's get the pacing of it. You know, I think a trailer will very much help us with it more, and then episode 1. I do trust everyone involved because this crew is really good, and I'm really hoping this is going to be a massive show. It's difficult because I feel like zombies have been overdone. Oh, they're not zombies, they're clickers. I know, but the way like this could be advertised is very much like that. So luckily with that HBO sticker and the cast, man, I can't wait for those reviews. I can't wait to get back into that world. I love 1 a lot. Like I said, I think 1 is probably the best video game story of all time. That was probably my thoughts. Like before, I was gonna say Red Dead was probably my choice before Last of Us, and Last of Us 2 is a phenomenal story. Has some issues for the video game wise, I think, and there's some character issues wise, so it's not the peak of the other one, but great for a show. And I'm very interested to see what they do as far as where they end it, where they start, begin, everything like that. So looking good, excited to see it. Another one of those rumors that was put out from Daniel RPK was that Disney's interested in a Prey 2. Taylor, I'm sure you're liking this news out somewhere. Duh. You know, like it's one of those things where if it's true, if these numbers are true, that was biggest, and I believe it is, like biggest Hulu premiere, everything like that, biggest Star premiere, all this good jazz. Why wouldn't you if you're trying to drive people? And I think not only was it just like, okay, lots of people watch it, it was well loved. Like, I guess I could say well loved. I thought well loved might be a bit too over exaggerated, but it was super well received. And I think people were excited for it and wanted it to be good, but it blew people's expectations. I know it did for mine. So I don't know if many people were expecting it to be their favorite Predator, which it's my favorite Predator. I've seen that a lot, that sentiment from a lot of people. So I think this brand has a shot in the arm, and I think they should run with it. And then speaking of D23, they announced a bunch of dates. So they have D23, right? So video, I think it's the 9th they're doing, like the video game conference. And then Saturday's the big Lucasfilm, Marvel film, stuff like that, live action stuff, which I should announce soon. We're going to be covering it, of course, and maybe joined by some crossing over GOA members. So look out for that major announcement. There's your scoop for the day. But then D23 day is September 8th, the day before all that. It's a strange sort of thing because in the past they've been like separated, but alas, this is what we're doing. But nothing massive as far as I think the 3 biggest things are Pinocchio is coming out, the one with Tom Hanks. They released a photo of Pinocchio. Everyone's just kind of like, I guess I would say disturbed by it, but it's just like, it just looks like the Pinocchio from the Disney animated thing. I don't know, because people are like, well, this is something like kind of dogging on it. You can dog on the whole film overall as a concept being like them just remaking it. Sure, but what else did you think they were going to do? They weren't going to make it look like the Disney one. Like I don't get it. Sometimes I think I'm living in a crazy world. Like, you don't think they were going to do that just exact iconic design that carried the animated film? Fuck me, right? For thinking they were going to do that. I just thought like, okay, they're doing that, but I saw a lot of people taking a task. Like, why? I don't know. I got super hyped for Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2. Not happening. maybe it is happening, but not from this announcement because it was like Obi-Wan, a Jedi's return. And I thought with the post, like, man, I can't believe they. And it's funny because it's just that thing of like you. I think it's just Ewan. I actually don't still want a season 2. I think we're fine where we left it. I think it becomes more problematic if you do a season 2. The way they did it, if they were to do him some solo adventure on Tatooine, okay, but I feel like they'd do more so, kind of like playing within canon, getting too close to things, and I think we saw that with the finale. They stumbled across that, but still, I was for the excited of the announcement. But A Jedi's Return is a documentary about him coming back and doing the show. It's pretty much their gallery for it. Great, sign me up. I loved seeing Ewan back, and I loved a lot of things about that show, not the show overall, but I'm excited for that. I think there's lots of good story there. And then the other thing is Thor Ragnarok is dropping September 8th. God, I keep doing that. Thor Love and Thunder is dropping September 8th. So if you haven't seen it or you want to watch it again, that's going to be happening. Its theatrical run is about to end out and everything like that. I think it's going to be, just around 7-10 million or something like that. I think a good run. Didn't beat Thor Ragnarok, but, that's okay. I think it's still probably, if you take out No Way Home, that's probably the second biggest MCU thing since, or for Phase 4, right? I'm pretty sure. So I would say they're happy with that. So, yeah. And then Knives Out, it's coming out December 23rd on Netflix. They have said it's going to come out sooner in theaters. I don't think they've given a date for that yet. What is it? It's like it's Glass Onion, a Knives Out story, or whatever the hell it is. They released a plot, nothing too big, but I did like that it says, Edward Norton is like a tech mogul, and he's invited a bunch of people to the party, and of course someone ends up dead. But I like that they released one image of all the characters, and one on the table is Daniel Craig, and then one on the table is Edward Norton. It's like, man, that's a fucking combo. I cannot wait to see. So Knives Out, I'm looking forward to. I don't love as much as the first one for everybody, but I think that dynamic, that kind of route we're going, great. Sign me up. So yeah, those are the quick hits. Those are just some little news. Oh, for the video people hit starting soon. I took myself away, but yeah, that's quick hits. Box office wise, I'm trying to think anything happened as far as Top Gun Pass Infinity War. Still a beast. I think it's coming out. Actually, today I think Top Gun's out on digital. I think that's a mistake, but I think they could have just waited because the physical's November, so I don't know. But yeah, so anybody that is done with the movie, TV show portion, stuff like that, you can tune out now. I'm going to talk about some wrestling, talk about some AEW and some WWE Raw and that type of stuff. So yeah, check out all the other stuff that happened on GeekVerse. I'll be back tomorrow in the morning for you guys with the feeds and everything like that. And yeah, I'm just realizing I screwed up on an ad break, so there you go. It's somewhere in there. I'll fix that. But let's start with something that happened last week that I said I want to talk about, but want to wait because tons of stuff going on about this. So if you don't watch wrestling, I'll paint the scene. But if you watch AEW, what happened was CM Punk 2 weeks ago came back. Great, rah, happy. He's injured. My favorite wrestler, arguably. Well, there's like eras of it, right? Because Undertaker was my favorite wrestler to like I'd say like the 2000s. And then CM Punk happened, and then he went away, and then Kenny Omega's firmly been in that slot. So it's tough when I say CM Punk's like my favorite because I still think Kenny's my favorite, but they're like a neck and neck tie. My all-time ratings, who knows? But stuff like this week might take it down a little. So he comes back, and he's here to do a promo and everything like that. Okay, great, all good and stuff like that, right? He's going to set up this match with Jon Moxley that's happening at the pay-per-view. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. And then to start out this promo, he starts talking about Hangman Page. Now, if you don't remember, Hangman Page is who he beat for the title, right? And they had a mini feud and things like that. Now, as people will always tell me my whole life, it's fake, right? Yeah, so is every movie, TV, television show you watch as well, too. But there's always a difference with wrestling. There's a realism aspect to it as far as ego, like many other business, but ego, business, and the fans, right? The fans can change anything. The fan, like most of the time, good or bad, when we boo something at a show or think it's bad, they usually don't change it. Even if they should, that is one of the benefits and bad things about wrestling. You could be on a story and might have to pivot, or hey, if they created something, they created this new character because they love them. Let's run with this. So as this promo's, starting, Hangman Page is who he beats, and they're in the town where I can't remember, is it Virginia or something, or where they beat? I think it was where they beat No, it wasn't. It was where he beat Page for the title, right? And he starts to do this promo about, I know this guy, yeah, da 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 da. I think he's just making hints that it's Hangman. And then he starts to talk about, I'm willing to fight Hangman Page right now and give him his rematch. He sits down and he's like, oh, wait. He sits down, nothing happens, no music. And he's like, yeah, just what I thought. And he says, that's coward shit right now. When I first saw this, I did not think anything. Okay, no, I did think one thing. That's kind of strange, but I thought there's times where with Hangman's character, they've made him not cowardice, but kind of scared, anxiety ridden. So it's like, okay, this might fit with what's going on. Lo and behold, the next, actually not the next day, it's like within, I think like later on that night, it was like, that wasn't supposed to happen exactly like that. I'd be like, what? And as days gone on, more and more came on. That's why, if you saw me tweet, it was on the Wednesday where I was maybe going to do a show. And I want to talk about this, but like, I want to wait for more details because what was on the surface and then what came out was it was not planned. And what I thought was setting up a story, none of that was. It was CM Punk supposedly going into business for himself. I'm going to set up a situation, then why I wanted to wait to cover it because I feel very emotionally torn in this. Kind of going to business for himself, calling Hangman out and doing that. The rumor is that apparently at their last feud, he did not like the promo that Hangman did about saying things as far as workers' rights, referring to some controversies had with Colt Cabana, who was a friend of his, who they got in a lawsuit together, and also just saying that he was kind of a cancer in the locker room and stuff like that. Which I feel it's been different because I feel like since Punk got into AEW, it's been the opposite where we've heard nothing but good things, right? But now, as always in wrestling, more stuff starts to leak. And it's like, seems like there is a divide where some people said, hey, like these are rumors that people that support Punk said, hey, Hangman kind of started this, kind of took some below the shot belts at him in their feud. And Punk's kind of been bitter about it. And this was his, and because he got injured, right? So he never got a chance to, well, this is where I'll pull back. He didn't get a chance to respond in his sort of way. So he got injured. He was gone for some months. And now it's been on his mind, right? Wanted to say something. And you got the people on Hangman's side, which Hangman's notoriously always known as a super nice guy, really good in the locker room, just lovable, likable guy. And I think you can tell that. It's funny. It's much like Triple H and CM Punk, where he's always rocking stuff like for gay rights or abortion rights, stuff like he's very, I would say pro people, at least for me, in my perspective, as far as pro choice and stuff like that, pro life. Well, not life in that way. When I say pro-life, I mean let people live the way they want. Let they who want to fuck who they want to fuck, as long as it's legal and consensual. I don't care what you're doing. Let them be. If you want to be a man, woman, non-binary, doesn't matter to me. Be happy. And I think that's what he has, and that's what Punk has. And it's kind of funny because it's much like Punk and Triple H, where they have so many similarities, but they butt heads. So their side was, hey, there's all these promos, stuff like that. You're saying Punk is saying this, and it's a chance where it's not scripted. This is where it comes in reality, right? Where something wouldn't happen in a TV show because they would just edit this. In reality, Punk's supposed to walk down the ring, start promoting about Jon Moxley, hype up their match. Before he does that, he goes on this whole different tangent, kind of embarrass the guy, right? And you might think that's part of the story. It's not. And that's where wrestling's fucked up because real stuff happens all the time. Egos get in the way. So he says this, and a lot of people go, hey, that's not cool. Why I wanted to wait, because I wanted to wait, like, what was this exact reasoning for Punk doing this, right? Was there something that happened that day? Was there something that happened later on? I love CM Punk. And I think people know where I'm going with this. I love CM Punk. He is the reason I'm probably still a wrestling fan, because around that era, in 2011, 2012, wrestling to me was at, like, its lowest. It was complete shit for WWE's point. And at that point, I actually did watch a lot of independents back in the day, but that was the point where I was starting to... I guess I still watch them, right? Because I still know who like El Generico was and Kevin Steen was. I was still watching them, but there was just a point where life was starting to get busier. I had graduated, so it's like WWE was being more consumed. And it's like, well, not liking this product. And it sucked because I did watch independent stuff. I watched Ring of Honor and stuff. I watched some New Japan here and there, but WWE is what I grew up on. So I loved that. I wanted it to be better. That's why I love what's happening now, because I'm actually liking and loving the stuff that's happening in WWE, and it's good again. And I can be like, yes, I love the thing that made me fall in love with wrestling. So Pipe Bomb happens. I've talked about this before. Maybe I'll talk about this again on a different show one time. That was me winking. About how I fell in love with wrestling again. And he alone, even though there was other good wrestlers, he alone was anchored me to WWE. And then things actually got better in 2013 and 2014, and then I went back in the cycle and everything like that. And eventually got to a point where I did stop watching. The product was so bad I couldn't. And then CM Punk came back, and it was one of the greatest moments. I was tearing up because that character and that man meant so much to me in pro wrestling. Now, jump to this scenario. Why I wanted to wait is because I'm completely on the side of this just isn't cool. And it's to call someone a coward when they can't respond or had no opportunity to respond is kind of cowardly. For example, when we do stuff for Gauntlet, right? It's usually all planned out. If I call, let's say me and Taylor having a match, and I say, oh, I'll call him up, blah, 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 blah. I know next cast he's going to come in and get his shots in, or we plan something like that, right? This is just like, imagine if we did a Gauntlet feud and the whole time was just me dogging on Taylor and he never got to talk. Like, I just wrote it that way. This was different because they didn't write it this way. That's a whole different thing. But the other thing that's odd is because Hangman is one of their top stars. He's a babyface, and it does, for the general audience that doesn't follow these scoopers, reporters, it does make him look bad. It does make that character look like a coward, and it hurts the brand. And I think CM Punk going in for business himself is it was selfish. It was to the point where it sucks because I love CM Punk so much, but and I've heard so many stories about him, right? And there's some stuff like, oh, that's not the greatest, and not anything too bad, but just more ego stuff, right? Of very much like, if you do something, he'll cut you off as a friend right away. And I guess where I've gotten a point in my life where, unless it's a very, very bad thing, I can go, eventually forgiveness is the best route. And even if you're not close to that person, it's still just to let that anger go, where I feel like he's the type of guy that doesn't. You piss him off and he'll hold that forever and not talk to you. I've had multiple friends in life where we've had fights and stuff like that, and we thought we were never talking, but we found a way to come together. Maybe we're still friends now. Maybe we were just friendly when we weren't anymore, but I don't like to hang on that baggage, and maybe it's not baggage for him, but still, that's where it's a character, I won't say flaw. That's what he chooses to do. So I go, that's not the way I would do things, but that's fine. So I've heard things where I go, oh yeah, I don't know if I agree with that or do it that way, but that's fine. You live your life. This is one of the first times where I go, I can't do I could see this point or agree with this, because everyone's saying, oh, Hangman took the first shots, right, in these promos. He opened the floodgates to this. Where I disagree is in that promo where that was going on, him and Punk were face to face. This just feels like a situation where Punk thought of a good line later on was months later, and decided to say it. When you've thought about that in an argument or a fight, or you're having a conversation with your boss and you have the greatest zinger, but it comes to you 2 hours later, I should have said that. That's what this felt here. To me, Punk has always been the guy that will call out situations and look for in wrestling, when the real terms do happening, look for an antagonistic fight. Like, he's gonna throw the pipe bombs, right? He's gonna throw the shots, and he's gonna go toe to toe with you. He's gonna let it happen. This is not going toe to toe. Like, I know people say, "Oh, Hangman should have came out." I think Hangman, sorry to say, has a bit more decency and respect than what Punk did this time. And at the end of the day, I don't think Punk cares. I don't think he regrets it. There's a chance down the line he made, or maybe they talked to him and said, hey, that was not the greatest idea. Don't do that again. And that's where Tony Khan does need to step in, because that shit can't happen. Unless they say, okay, Hangman gets a good live mic this week and it happens. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to have Punk as preferential treatment, which I get it. Tony Khan is a big fan. I know that's always a joke that he's just a mark with money, but still, I don't completely think of him like that. But I do think he does have to step up, because I think if you kind of just let this happen with no punishment or anything like that, that's bad business. And especially in the time where WWE's growing, WWE's numbers are up, their live audiences numbers are up, morale is up, people are excited for that brand again. You do not. You do not want people. You want to stay. You can't be the utopia, but you want people to be as happy as possible in your company. And if you could just have if anyone, same thing, GeekVerse or my podcast network, if at any point they thought, oh, Travis now could just come out there, bear them, say something bad, and then I say, hey, you can't respond, Twitter or publicly or anything like that. And he did in the Elite, which was very funny. They did this video where him and Dark Order were doing this stupid game, and someone came like, oh, Punk's in the ring. He's like, I don't care, I'm doing some fucking important, get out of here. Like, they played off like he didn't even know what was happening. It was great, but that's like Hangman taking the high road. And it's good for him, because I respect him more and I like him more for that. But at the same time, I want him to take the low road, and I worry that it's that Tony Khan's not going to let it happen. Then they're going to make sure Hangman doesn't get a live mic for weeks, so they think it just blows over and he doesn't get a chance to respond. I hope he does, but if he takes the high road, that's great. But at the same time, that hurts his character, because if he took the high road, for the people that don't know the behind the scenes stuff, if he took the high road, his character is a coward. He didn't come out. And that to me is super bad for business. And it feels very much like, it's funny, like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels scenario back in the 90s, where they were in a feud, but they started not like each other, and they started taking like shots that were like, ooh, stuff that they would take shots you weren't supposed to say, or shots when they weren't around. And same thing, you couldn't respond. So they would respond the next time. I kept going and going. That's what this reminds me of. And it's so funny that CM Punk is such like a Bret Hart guy, because this feels much more like 90s Shawn Michaels than it does Bret Hart. Like, you know, the Sunny Days comment, like inferring Bret Hart is having an affair live on air. You know, it's like, that's some fucked up stuff. And this isn't to that level, but I was not a fan of it. And I think this was one of the first things Punk's ever done where, and I think this happened a lot for people, where you felt a little off and you go, this isn't the guy that we knew. Now, there's three routes. Either it was lapse in judgment, you made a mistake, that's fine. All happens. If I was Punk, I'd say, hey, let Hangman go out there, let him get a fucking zinger on me. Let him respond, then we'll move forward, go past. Because there were some rumors that Punk said he's never going to let him, you know, never going to let Hangman go over him. I love Bret Hart. Bret Hart would do that shit too, and that's also just bad for business. If the story needs Hangman to beat you, then that's what happens. You should be a businessman. And Punk all the time would talk about, you know, wanting to be paid and stuff like that. We know he's getting paid well, and that's where the two other scenarios are. So one was, okay, lapse of judgment, that's fine, we all do it. And even if he were to say that, or there was a comeuppance, I'd say, okay, forgive him. People make mistakes. I get that. I'm not a cutoff, you know, be done with him. No. That's why I want to see what happens. Second thing is, like some people have always talked about, there was these rumors that when Punk joined AEW, some people said, well, he's their problem now. As much as those big Punk fans love him, there might be a chance that he's always been like this. And it's just, you know, we choose to believe it, or we've always seen the better side of it, right? And three, I've lost it. They're like... 3 is just that I can't remember the scenario as far as, you know, it was a lapse of judgment. You know, it was a mistake. Oh man, I can't remember the third one, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. I do hope Tony Khan figures it out, and I do hope that it's not something going forward, because I don't not want to like CM Punk. I love his work. I love everything. But this is that first time where it's like, this is not cool. And this hurts a character. This hurts a business. This is bigger than you. And I don't think you should have done it. And this is just for me as a commentary. You know, we don't know the full inner workings. We don't know everything. But at the same time, it's just not cool. And it is just like, it's kind of unfair. And it's kind of bullyish in a way, right? So... we will see, but let's take our last ad break and talk about Raw, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So not much to add on. Well, I guess no, shouldn't say that. So WWE Raw. I was gonna say not much to add, but there's actually a lot. So with SmackDown, I'll go over SmackDown quickly. But with Raw, biggest thing with SmackDown and Raw is just continue to be good shows. Like them both. Didn't get to talk about SmackDown last week. Continue to be good shows. Like, for example, SmackDown, they did this fatal 5-way for the Intercontinental Championship contender, or number one contendership, right? You know, Clash of Castle. Two things. One, that match got like 2 commercial breaks. Fucking fantastic. Like, that's what I want. I don't want a fucking fatal 5-way that goes 8 minutes. Like, no, these are a bunch of talented people. Let them work. And 2, this is where, I guess I got 3. I don't want to forget the third one this time. With 2, it's like, they're just making right decisions. I thought, man, Sheamus, they're doing this first show in the UK. He should definitely, because, you know, he's from there, he should definitely be on the card in a big spot. And I thought he should face Gunther, whatever they're going to be, formerly Walter. And they did it. And I just always go, wow, again, decisions and choices that just make sense. Having Drew in the main event title, having Sheamus here, great. You know, all that stuff. It continues to make sense, continues to have good wrestling. And the third thing was that, obviously, we got this big return with Raw, right? Johnny Gargano. So I think for the most part, they're doing a really good job of having big moments or big storylines. I think their shows need to, I won't say end a bit better, because I think Raw did good as far as like, okay, Edge is a match, Dame Priest, solid match, and then they started to set up Beth comes in for the run. I think the SmackDown one was a little weak of just like, okay, Roman and Drew fight each other, but that's fine. Not every show can be the massive big ending. That's fine. But Gargano being back, that's another sign of WWE. Like, Gargano left NXT. He had his kid, and that was the word, right? Like, oh, he wants to take some time off, and he was gone for 9 months. Likely has the money, so I don't want to say I don't believe him. I don't believe to a sense that he needed the full 9 months. I think he was kind of waiting to see the lay of the land, see where everything went. And look at who's fucking smart now, because whether you're a WWE fan or AEW fan, maybe you're disappointed he's not in AEW. To me, this is a win because he works very well with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. He's one of their boys, right? And all of a sudden, one of your boys, whatever, especially one of Triple H being the main one, is now the lead creative of the biggest wrestling show of the world. Brand, I guess I should say. Man, he played it fucking smart. He really did. He could have went to AEW. I would like that because I just think that, man, look at all the talent he could have worked with. Johnny Gargano is one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's somebody that he was more in the independent scene when I wasn't watching. It's like, okay, who's this guy? I heard about Johnny wrestling. And I'd see him a few times. It's like, I just don't know if I really get it yet. And then I think it was the crew, like him and Ciampa were teaming up, but I think it was the Cruiserweight Classic when they faced each other. I was like, okay, I get it. And then I really started to get it. Fucking Rebel Heart, one of the best teams in wrestling history. I don't care. But he is a guy. He's the fucking can wrestle a broomstick and get a 5-star match anybody. There's so many people on that main roster. It's like, man, I cannot wait. And the fact that he's with Triple H, that will book him well, and he could be on Raw or SmackDown and wrestle 10 to 15 minutes, get great main event feuds. Fuck. Like, I get goosebumps right now. And with AEW, it would have been great because there's those matches too, but I am at the point with AEW where it's like, stop signing people. Do you have enough? There's people when they sign like Parker Boudreaux or whatnot. It's like, you have so many people that I'm not seeing at all. Like, and that are like, even from the people from the beginning stage of like someone like a Sonny Kiss, like Parker Boudreaux. I really like Sonny Kiss. Maybe they weren't like the most talented in the ring, but I like the character, I like what they brought, and it's just a character that's gone. They're just on Dark, and I don't have time to watch Dark or Dark Elevation. To me, if you're not on Rampage or Dynamite, you're just kind of around. So I'm kind of glad because I think he would have got lost in the shuffle there. And I think it was a good promo. I think it was a very endearing promo of talking about, his kid, talking about where he'd been, why he's gone, and seeing him. And it was just a surprise. No Scoopers got it or anything. As far as I know, no Scoopers picked up or anything like that. Good setup with Austin Theory. They had like a friendship in NXT, and that's a good feud. I think he will beat Fury. But I think Gargano on the main roster is going to be huge. And the way he talked about, I've had dreams of winning the IC title, the United States title, the world title, wrestling WrestleMania. I hope they do the classic old school build of him winning even a team's title, a secondary title, then doing the what you used to do as far as there was a hierarchy of not just win the main title and then the other stuff later. I hope they do that with him. And we've seen that he can be a great heel and face. He is right now, I think, a huge signing for WWE. And again, they brought people back, but this is like a vote of confidence. It's almost like the pendulum switching back the other way, And I do wonder, there's tons of people that obviously Tony Khan's like, oh, well, Adam Cole's here for another 5 years, whatnot. Of course, yeah. But when some people's contracts are up, like someone like Amiro, things like that, if they don't feel they're used well and Triple H could be using them better, man, it's going to be a big swing again. I think there's some people, like, even then, though, like Moxley, like, I think he'd be open to it. Like, it's tough, and WWE is on a roll right now. I guess I should bring up just the roster. But yeah, Gargano being back, great. I was excited that happened. I think WWE, it's kind of the same thing I talked about with Edge, where he was talking about, like, he talked with AEW about maybe being signed there and stuff. It's just one of those things where, no, Edge needed to return to WWE. Like, it felt more right for him to be there. So Gargano to me kind of felt, especially now, with Vince doing it, then okay, maybe I could see the thing of I'm a little worried to do this. But with Triple H and even Shawn Michaels kind of in a lesser roles and NXT, but still as like a confidant, it's like, no, this is the right spot, and I think Triple H is just I think he's gonna book him really well. Well, let's talk about the rest of the show here quickly. Yeah, the main event was Edge, and I've thought about this from the day, as far as it's tough because like Edge is doing the revenge feud because he has to beat Damian Priest, but Damian Priest loses. Judgment Day has lost a lot. I think they just need to give them a really big moment and go on a roll, or they just gotta lose. I hope that they set up Beth Phoenix. This is the thing I was thinking about from day one, that they have to do Finn and Rhea versus Beth and Edge. And I hope they do Beth and Rhea solely. And I think that in both situations, Finn needs to beat Edge and Beth needs to lose to Rhea. I really do. If Edge beats Finn, I just kind of go, well, I think Judgment Day is kind of dead, and you just kind of got to end it. I think Finn should get the win. He's more of the future. I think Triple H wants to build him back up. Judgment Day is still like, even like they had this segment of just like, he said like, Finn was like, oh, instead of 619, it's 611. Like Ray was whining because he lost or because he's hurt. Just like, this is some bad this is some bad shit. And this is where like Triple H aired not completely like roses, like last week when they had, this is more her thing, but when they had Ronda arrested, it's a fun little thing to do. But man, Ronda, you gotta have her speak less. And I don't mean that like that sounds super sexy. I just mean like, or the promos are giving her, she can't remember them because it's just like, man, like she's tripping over words. It doesn't feel natural. But so the Triple H era is not perfect. This Judgment Day stuff, these promos aren't coming off as cool or whatnot. So if you don't give them these big wins, then have Edge beat them. He destroyed the group. And then end. I still think you should do Rhea and Beth one-on-one, and Rhea should win because Rhea is a future star. She's fucking fantastic, just star power galore. And I think that is like a match that everyone wants to see. So I think that was a good ending, good setup. We'll see where it goes. Now, how did the show open? Oh yeah, just Seth and Riddle brawling. Not much here, just they're fighting. Cool. It's gonna be a good match. Trish, this is very interesting. Trish Stratus, they're in Toronto, so of course I gotta have her there. It feels like she retired 2006 and then she came back a couple times. Then she, retired again. Last match with Charlotte Flair. And then like all these comments she's been saying, she's not fucking retired. Even in here, she's hinting like, oh, I've had a lot of thoughts. Her and Bayley have hinted at stuff. It's just funny that she's doing the classic wrestler thing of like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm not done. And great. I like Trish Stratus. This was like a fun little segment with everybody. They had the tournament. Io and Dakota Kai beat Asuka and Alexa Bliss. We all knew that was happening. I still feel like they probably should have done that in the finals, but this match was good. Nothing like amazing. I'm hoping the finals is like a real big banger, but I'm excited to see the 6-woman tag more. We got Dolph and Finn. Fine, gives Finn a win. That's what he needs. Dolph is, I like seeing Dolph wrestle. As much as I've fallen out of love with the character, I like always seeing Dolph in the ring. Kevin Owens versus Chad Gable. This is what's very interesting. As everyone knows, massive Kevin Owens fans. Love that Triple H is like bringing back the prize fighter. This is what I want. Kevin Owens is one of my favorites currently. He's probably now he's back to the prize fighter, which sounds strange, but I think he's in the top 3 for me. Now people might be like, oh, why wouldn't you think that when he's not the prize fighter? It's kind of like when Michael Fassbender's acting in really bad movies. It's like you do love him, but he just can't show his talent. Not that it was as bad as that, but still, it just was something different. And before I continue, Travis Hines says, what will they do with Cody when he returns? With Triple H in charge now, they still push him heavyweight championship. Also, Ronda needs a Brock treatment, pair with Heyman. Yeah, she's always needed a mouthpiece, but I guess it's just because she's trying to be a good character right now. You can't have Heyman with her or anything like that. Even though I think it could work. And I think Cody is championship bound. Cody was already getting booked good with Vince. Triple H and him are closer. Triple H, I know Cody's done the whole Smash and Throne thing. That doesn't matter. Cody's a million times has said like Triple H is his favorite wrestler, and there's footage of them hugging backstage, like all that. That's where we talk about the Punk stuff, the promo stuff, taking shots. It's supposed to be for fun and dramatic effect, and like promote, like move a story forward, and then you pull it away. And that's what Cody did. Like, yeah, okay, he went on AEW and smashed Triple H's throne. It was Triple H fucking gets it because he did that shit in his career. The second they're hugging and they're talking good about each other. No, I think Cody, he will. Of course, I can talk about Fastbender at any point, but no, I think Cody, he has a good chance of winning the Rumble. I think it's just a big question of The Rock and what they're doing there with Roman. It's just a question of, I think he'll be the champion. It's just win. I don't know, because if they want to do Rock and Roman for the title, obviously they're going to hold off because Rock's not winning that title. But what was interesting here, maybe it's just because they're in Toronto, but because Kevin Owens is from there, Chad Gable's coming out, he's making his promo. I hope they switch his character eventually. The Shush thing is fine. He just could wrestle in the ring so good. This character, it's a comedy character. It works enough. But Kevin Owens comes out. They're really positioning him as like a babyface after last week, but I feel like what they should do is just kind of keep him in this tweener mode of going back and forth. But he came out to a big pop, could just be Canada, but even commentary was making it sound like a babyface, and to me it makes sense because I think people like myself are just so fucking relieved that the prize fighter Kevin Owens version is back. It's like, yeah, we just want to see him fight and fuck people up. It almost let's come to that point because the prize fighter guy was a heel. He was a bad guy. He turned on his best friend, hospitalized him, like he did some bad shit, but it's just the fact that we're so happy to see him back. I think it's going to be hard for him to get booed. So they might just make him a face or a tweener. I think that's the best route if you could put him in that scenario. I do think we're leading to eventually him and Sammy getting back together and fighting the Usos, which is going to be fucking top-notch stuff. Because he said he wants to win a bunch of titles, right? And same thing, he doesn't have to go after the world title right away. Let's wait. I would like it that you could do another Kevin Owens Roman program because we know it's going to be fucking good, and we haven't seen Kevin prize fighter Owens against Roman, but I almost would wish that they wait on Kevin Owens to get the title when they want, like a title match when they're going to put it on. I think Kevin Owens is a prime Money in the Bank guy, so I hope that happens, but loving this. I think Sami Zayn and Usos is the way to go. Let's see here. Bailey had her first match back. I'm not sure she's been working house events, but this was like a good match. You could tell this is probably just some more matches. Like she just had a big injury, just trying to warm up, but she still has. She always had in the ring, but now she's a good character. Aaliyah, I like enough. I need to see like a little more for me to be fully on board. I didn't get it from this match, but I'm a little unfamiliar with her work. Chomp and The Miz versus Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles. Solid team match here. I like that they're still doing this Dexter Lumis stalking angle with Miz. I think it's going to be a great break. I'm wondering how long Ciampa still stays with Miz now that Gargano's back. I feel like there just has to be a moment of, hey, like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're not this guy. And I don't hope it doesn't lead to a match, but I think it will be something like that. And, yeah, and with SmackDown, I don't know what else there's I kind of talk about everything. The only thing I'll say is I love Sami Zayn had a great showing in the Fatal 5-Way, but I love this Roman Sami Zayn storyline, him trying to be in the bloodline, trying to like gain Roman's respect. Roman is just so fucking good. Like now that I'm watching more full time, like I knew he was good, but just his promo and his delivery, man, so good with that Sami Zayn stuff. And yeah, I think that at some point, I like that Sami Zayn saved him, but they're going to turn on him, and maybe that's when Kevin Owens comes in. But yeah, SmackDown was good. I think Raw was actually, I'd say, better, but yeah, I'm very excited for wrestling in the future, and who knows what I'll be doing within the future. But that's Travis told you for today. Thank you very much for anyone that tuned in live. No, it's early, but this is what's going to happen. Or the audio listeners, really appreciate you. Happy to be back doing this, and I promise to hear from you next. Don't be bored.